Hey guys, Gina here. I'm working on day 15 of Load, and the prompt is a sound, so you should scrapbook about a sound. And my husband Stu has been encouraging me to make a scrapbook about my mother. We lost her many years ago, and I tell him all these stories about her, and he thought that it would be cool to put all of these different stories that my brothers or I or anyone else talk about into a book and a scrapbook and things like that. So I took this opportunity for this day of Load to scrapbook about my mom. And one of my mother's most favorite things to do was to go down the beach during the off season, because she didn't like crowds, but she loved the beach. So one of the things she would like to do is go down to the beach during the off season, so it was typically cold, and she'd get an inexpensive room, and she would stay down there with the doors open so she could hear the waves, but the heat all the way up so she could be warm as well. So not very energy efficient, but it made her happy, and it was one of her getaways. So this is not a picture that my mother took, unfortunately. I took this picture at Long Beach Island in New Jersey in November of 2011. But the waves are crashing against the shore there, and I actually went up to the beach at daybreak and took some pictures of the sun rising over the ocean. So that's one of these pictures, but I thought the picture still lent to the story, even though I don't have any pictures from my mom taking pictures down at the beach, but I do have this picture and I have the story. So that's where we're going. And then that's about as far as I've gotten in the whole planning this out, because I really have no idea where I'm going. I was going to try to use my Studio Calico kit for February, and it has a lot of teals and aquas and things like that in it, and I thought that would be great, beachy scene. But this picture it's warmer to me than those teals and aquas, so I really wanted to pull in the warmth of the sun rising and not make it teal and aqua and green and blue and that sort of thing. So from that point I put away the kit and I went and looked for some papers, and I, honest to God, only went through, I keep all of my papers by manufacturer, and I keep Bo Bunny and Fancy Pants together. It's just the way it's not that they go together as collections, it's just, I keep them in the same row on my paper rack. That's just the way it is. So I just decided that I would just pick that stack up, this stack here. So it's all mixed up, Fancy Pants and Bo Bunny. So it's all mixed up in here. And I thought at first that I would use this paper, but the sun motif isn't really matching the story very much because it was at night. She loved the ocean at night more than she liked it during the day. I mean, my mother's a beach bum, so she liked it during the day too, but the story really wraps around her sleeping with the doors open at night, so the sun theme didn't really go. So then I went through that pack, and then I pulled out, and I believe all of these papers that I pulled are Bo Bunny. I really think that because the colors in this are very light, but it has that dark row here, that the picture needs to be backed on some dark paper. So I pulled this. This is from Bo Bunny, Back to Basics, and this is Timepiece Villa. And I like this. I probably won't use this clock, but I'm really looking at this as just a sort of matting layer to give more emphasis to the photo. This is also Back to Basics. This is Gabrielle Ferrist. And as you can see, I'm not sure which ones of these pattern papers I'm going to use. I really like this. I think it's kind of like a salmon. It's kind of like an orangey pink. I'm not sure how colors show up on camera, but that's kind of how it is. And I really kind of like it, and I like that it has like all this detail on the back, so that's one option I'm thinking about. Then here is this Bo Bunny Back to Basics. This is Gypsy Curry. And like this one, I really like, very warm colors, but it has that green in it, and I'm not sure. But then on this side, there's this pattern, but I don't think it's solid enough. I think there's too much white going on in there. And then this is Back to Basics. On this side is Ad Lib Improv. And on that side it has that sort of I don't know, these little shapes here remind me of those hex screws. You know, if you've ever put together IKEA furniture, you know all about the hex screws. And so I thought maybe that one. And then as just another layering paper, this is Bo Bunny Back to Basics, and this is Etc. Extra. And if I cut pieces of this, this will lend nicely to my Project Life to do Stu's News. So I could cut a piece of this at 4x6 or 8.5 by whatever. But I'm going to use this side of it just as a layer behind some of these pictures. I'm not sure where I'm going with pattern paper. And then, obviously, because I don't know what papers I'm going to use, I don't know what embellishments I'm going to use. Typically, what I do is I start with the papers, and then I go through. I have these 4 drawers that just have miscellaneous embellishments that I've just tossed in there because I didn't use them all or whatever. So I have these, and I don't know who manufactured them or anything like that, but I have these hearts. They're not orange, they're kind of pink, but I really thought that this would be like a really cool element to line down the side of the photo, but again, I'm not sure. So I pulled those hearts. I have this chipboard shape I thought I could do my journaling on. It has some gold glitter on it. This is for my mind's eye, but I don't know what collection or anything like that. I have these 2 flowers. I have these 2 flare buttons. One is yellow with a camera on it, and this other one is this pink floral there. And these are KI Memories badges, and it's got a lot of yellows and orange and brown, so I thought maybe I could use those. I have these hexagons that I'm not sure who made them or where they came from, but they are beachy themed, and they have oranges and yellows in them, so I thought maybe I could try to incorporate some of them. I have this Hello wood veneer shape. I have these heart buttons that are red and a cream color. I have a random doily. Then these 2 are the last 2 pieces. No, this one too. These are just 2 chipboard shapes that has the orange, and this one has an orange and a brown. And then I have this die cut piece. It says Palace Hotel, so I kind of liked it for, I don't know, just a decorative element, because, you know, my mother always stayed. It says in Montana, though. Maybe we can cover that up. But, because obviously you're not going to see the ocean in Montana. So, I don't know. And then, as far as other embellishments, I pulled these 2 wood veneer borders from Studio Calico, and because I thought about using those hexagons, I pulled the hexagon one, but then I also have just the scallop. I have these 2 pieces from Amy Tangerine ready. Oh, which one is this? It's Sketchbook. So these 2 are from Sketchbook. So it has that orange on it. I really like this cluster of buttons here from my Mind's Eye Miss Caroline collection, and I thought I would use these not as 3 separate elements on the pages I typically do, but just in a cluster by themselves. I thought maybe, and then pull in some of these little pins maybe. I have 2 cards of words from The Sweetest Thing, My Mind's Eye. I have these Ormolu flare badges. I really like this Fabulous one right there. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. It says Fabulous right there. Basic Gray. These are just some die cut shapes, and then this one is again die cut shapes and transparencies from Basic Gray. And really, 9 minutes to tell you I have no idea what I'm doing. So, if you listen to all of that, great. If not, then you're going to pick up on the, I will put, like I said, put the link down there with the time that we're actually going to start working on this layout down in the bottom, and you can start from there. So I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, so after listening to me talk for 9 minutes, I'm not sure you want to hear my voice again. If you listen to that whole intro, congratulations. If not, we're starting right here. I said in the intro that I wasn't sure which one of those orange papers I was going to use, and I decided to use this kind of muted orange background. I really wanted to pick up the warmth of that sunrise. So I didn't want to go with a blue or something like that, which I said in the I don't think I can say anything more now in this narration than I said in the intro. But anyway, so I'm using this Bo Bunny paper, and I'm cutting it down to size. And ever since I like a couple of, you guys know, on that one layout a few months ago that I messed up, I've been very I don't know, crazy about making sure that I don't do that again. So it's always constantly like going back and checking and all that. So now I'm pulling out all these embellishments that I went around my room and collected, and I really wanted to use those hearts down that one side of the picture, but that wasn't going to work. The color was off. It's a little too pink against this sort of, I don't know what you would call that color, orange. It's a very muted orange. But anyway, so I'm just going through and looking through all of these. These are transparencies and die cuts from Basic Gray, and I went through and pulled out the ones that I thought in the colors that I wanted to pick up in the layout. So I pulled all those out, and now I'm just going through, and I thought about using these flowers. But they'll eventually leave. And then I'm thinking about these hexagons. They have this beachy kind of theme, but the colors again don't match, and that didn't work. The embellishments for this layout, other than the embellishments, this was a very easy layout to put together, but I spent a lot of time here going through which embellishments I want to use. I thought about using that hexagon border, and that doesn't work either, so I get rid of that. I really like the idea of that camera. The colors are right, even though it's a pretty it's a pretty bright pink. I mean, that Amy Tangerine paper is a pretty bright pink, but I thought in that element it worked well. So I'm throwing that little doily back there, and I used that ormolu flare and then that chipboard piece on top of the doily. And eventually, I really like how this embellishment clusters come together, but it did take a long time. And that round die cut from Amy Tangerine up there in the left-hand corner has the word hello on it, and I didn't want that to show. So I'm being very conscious of covering that up. So now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I really like this. This is cool. All right, let's go. So thinking about using some washi tape there, and it's a orange diagonal stripe. I don't know what you call that. And now here I'm doing something that I'm laying my layers down here. I watched a video by Danny on the on the Load message board. She's called the Scrapper on the Street, and she does a video every day during Load to go over her layout. She doesn't do a process video, but she goes through and talks about how she did her layout and how she's doing with the challenges and things like that. And she talked about a class she took recently where they talked about layering from the top to the bottom. So I'm trying to be more cognizant of putting my layers down that way so that when it comes time to, when I'm adhering it all kind of works. But as you know, this is me. So it doesn't work exactly the way you think it would if somebody, who was more organized was doing it. But anyway, so I'm using some foam adhesive to pop that ormolu flare up. I'm using 2 squares, and that's scrapbook adhesive squares. I go back and forth between that and the Stampin' Up! Foam adhesive, and I don't know. On cards and all, I use foam adhesive that I got at the dollar store because I don't care at that point. Cards, I don't care if they're acid-free or anything like that, so I just they sell these little foam things at the dollar store, and I use those on cards, but for my layouts, I don't use that. So I'm adding these transparent, what are those called? Arrows, yay, and guess what I forgot? The washi tape. There's a shock, right guys? So the thing about those transparent arrows though is I'm not sure like what adhesive to use under them. I know that sometimes when you're using transparencies you can just add the adhesive on the under where the element's going to be covered up, but for these arrows they weren't really covered up. So I don't know what adhesive. My tape runner adhesive was not working. You can actually, if you look at this in real life, you can see the adhesive underneath that arrow. So I'm going to have to find, if you guys have any suggestions about what adhesive to use underneath those transparent pieces, I would greatly appreciate it. Or else I'm going to have to learn how to use my sewing machine. One or the other. So I added that KI Memory flare there. I chose that striped one because I thought it brought all the colors together. And I'm adding some word stickers from these My Mind's Eye collections. And I don't normally think about design rules, as you guys know, but I watched that darn Chamel video about negative space, and now that brown space underneath that orange die cut is going to bother the heck out of me. And before, I think I would have looked at it and been like, it's fine. But now I watched Chamel's video and I'm like, ugh, it's an awkward brown space. What am I going to do with that? And now looking at it here, it's like, it's okay. I mean, it would have worked fine. It's balanced with the other side of the layout where that brown is sticking out. So I think it would have worked if I had just left it alone, but I had just watched Chamel's video and I'm like, oh, that looks like negative space. I don't really know what negative space is. I don't profess at all to understand design rules. You guys want a lesson on design, you don't want to watch me. So, anywho, of course, I laid everything down and now I'm picking it all back up to put where I want. I'm using some of those little heart buttons, and I really loved how those buttons were laid out on that sheet, but I couldn't get them to work on this layout. So, and see, there's the finger tapping. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I'm sitting there thinking about that little piece of brown space underneath between that die cut, between that chipboard and those words. I'm thinking about that small brown space. And I really think that I could have just left it alone. But in hindsight, I wish I would have left it alone. But anyway. I cover it up with this die cut from Basic Gray. I think it would have been just fine to leave it brown, but now that's there. And I thought, oh, I got to fill that in too. I'm like having a crisis here. Like every little space has to be covered, and that's just not true. So here again, I'm just looking at it. I don't know what to do. So I'm like, okay, let me work on this journaling card. So I pull out these Ali Edward Technique Tuesday stamps, and there's one there that says, these are the moments I want to remember, or these are the stories I want to remember. And I mean, these are stories about my mom, so I definitely want to remember them, and I thought that was a nice sentiment to add. And the stamping is definitely not straight, but that's okay. Now I'm going to grab, I think I'm going to journal now. Yep, and I cut the journaling out, because who wants to watch me write? So, and now I'm using these KI Memories icicles alphabets, and I was going to write the title of this page is going to be Sounds Like Heaven, but the problem with these KI Memories things is that they only had one E in the entire box. I mean, how do you do that? So heaven has two E's, so I couldn't put heaven in that font, so I put Sounds Like. I decided to put Sounds Like in that font, and I'll use a pink paisley foam alphabet for the heaven. And actually, in the end, it turns out nice. I actually like this better. But I was just like, how can you only have one E? But anyway, it works out, because here now I've used half the alphabet. Life is good. But there's two S's. How can there be one E and two? Okay, anyway. So I'm liking where that is. I'm going to use some glossy accents to put those down so that you can't see the adhesive behind them. And maybe I should have put a small layer of glossy accents on the back of that arrow. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know, but I'm going to have to look into adhesive to use under those transparencies. So I added that little flare button from a kit I got a million years ago, and I don't even know who made it. That little floral flare. And I forgot the eye, the dot for the eye, so I added that. And now I'm going to run off and get some other letter stickers. No, I'm not. I'm going to add some enamel dots. Because here I'm still like, I've got to fill in the space. I love Chamel, I really do. But I'm not paying attention to that anymore. Because now I can look at this and go, well, there's negative space. Isn't that trap space underneath the word sounds where that brown is? I'm so confused about this whole negative space issue. But anyway, now I'm off getting letter stickers. And now, oh, I still haven't gotten the letter stickers. Here's some twine. That twine is from the Twinery. And I just add, if there's a little, hole in the tag, I definitely like to put twine in it. So, and then I just pop the top of that tag up on some pop dots. And here's a Martha Stewart centering ruler. And then here's my T-square ruler. And I'm trying to line these letters up and realize that it's not working on the T-square ruler either. So then I'm going to pull out my Tim Holtz ruler, which I think works much better because it has horizontal lines across the whole thing. So you can use the horizontal lines on the ruler itself to line your letters up, which is nice. But I've seen people use a different ruler. I'm going to have to do some research and see about what ruler people use for this. But it really helps to be able to figure out where that lettering is going to go. The only problem is when you're using foam alphabets, like you guys know, it tends to pull. So here's a final picture of the layout. Thank you guys so much for watching, And let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.